We're back. We're going to talk about a case study with one of my clients. Okay, so sending for ecom is one of the most, saturated markets. Um, there's a lot of people that have done it. It's not my ideal market. So if you're a company that wants to, maybe do that, it would really have to depend. It would have to depend on the industry, quite frankly. So this particular one is for a marketing company that does ads for ecom. They do a lot of other stuff that's valuable. They're a great client. They're awesome guys, but it's definitely a tough market. So let's talk about why it works. So you might be wondering, like, kind of what do some of these numbers look like? What do these things look like? I am not going to include the company's name. It is a U.S. based company. I'll just say that. Small size, less than 20 employees, handful in office, and the rest are overseas. They do great service, great product. They have a great track record. They know what they're doing. So they're a great client from that perspective, but in a tough market when it comes to cold email. Okay. So let's just first get the kind of main stuff out of the way from the perspective of what, why it works, and then we'll talk some more details of money and stuff like that. So first of all, which I always require, is that the client works on copy with me, meaning I'll come up with copy, but I need some back and forth because I work with a bunch of different industries. I'm not an expert in every single industry. I know copywriting, structure, formatting, how to test, but industry lingo I'm going to need help on, or angles and things like that. And I do my own research, obviously, but I always require that. Also, they're willing to test different call to actions. Okay, so it might be a meeting, it might be a phone call, it might be a sales asset, it might be a video, it might be a lot of different things. It might be some free work to test out to get on a phone call. That's something that we've tested as well. They're willing to do extra work, meaning that if they don't have a sales asset for something that we want to work on, they'll send it. They'll make the sales asset. Usually it takes like a week or two. They'll get it done. They also have great case studies on their own in different industries, niches within ecom. So they took a client who was like 200K-ish range up to 12 million. And they are still with that client. It's been over 10 years. They do really great work. So they have proof on their website. So that's why it works. So here's some issues. This is real life, good, bad, and the ugly, Clint Eastwood. Okay. So they are very good at the fulfillment. All of their business has been referral. Initially you get a couple clients, here and there. Most of the time I think they were working for other agencies and they went off on their own. I think like 12, 13 years ago. So they got to work on their sales process. Again, totally fine. But I've booked them over 34 meetings as of right now, during a tough part of the season, quite frankly, when it comes to ecom. So great guys, again, great client, but they got to work on their closing, and they got to have their sales systems in place. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because that's something that you want to take into consideration when you're thinking about cold outbound, because closing referral traffic is very different than closing cold traffic. It's entirely different. Okay. And a lot of people will apply a referral closing ratio or tactic to a cold traffic tactic, sales tactic, and it doesn't really translate. Okay. As I mentioned already, very saturated niche. Tons of ecom brands have been burned before. This is the last 10 years has been the era of ecom. People are building out their own brands. Industries are changing. There's a million different kind of mimic brands, and most ecom brands, they don't really know marketing. They hire an agency, they get burned. So there's a tough hurdle to get over initially. Okay. Also, for them specifically, the prospect needs to have a high per month revenue generation to work with them. They like 500,000 to $1 million gross per month with a certain amount of ad spend. Okay, so their ad spend numbers are pretty high, and their expectation of revenue is pretty high. So I can book them a meeting, but if somebody's doing, let's say like 2-3 million a year, maybe they'll want to talk to them, but again, it'll depend on the margins, because margins really matter, which means they have free cash to invest in ads and testing out different marketing ideas. So they have a high hurdle in order to work with them. Okay. So as I mentioned, I booked them 34 meetings. They do ecom marketing, Amazon, ad creative. From that, they've had 7 active deal pitches where they're like, we definitely want to work with this person. The margins look right. They are at the right stage of their business. And those are deals that are in process. This is what their deal size looks like. It's anywhere from 60 to 130K for each deal. Okay. So what that means is that on the low end, it's 60 to them gross. That's not including ad spend, right? So the way these agencies work is they have the gross to them, and then on top, there's an expectation that whoever their client is going to be, that they have a certain amount of ad spend expectation. Okay, so that might be $5, $10, $20, $30,000 per month if they're trying to scale it up. Okay, so it's 60K to them, or up to about 130 on average. They can be more, they can be less, it can be anywhere in between. Okay, so that means the deal pipeline for them for the 5 months that I've been working with them, and that has not been all active campaigns. Campaigns were on pause for certain times for certain reasons, because we're working on some assets. Client was working on some assets. So let's just say total of 3 to 4 months of active sending. That's 420 to about 910K in pipeline, active pipeline pitching, potential revenue. They're not going to close all that, obviously, but that's the range of pipeline. Okay. So if they close one deal, one deal on the low end of that range, they'll have a 10x ROI. Okay. They're likely to close 3, which means they're going to have a 30x ROI. And so to me, when it comes to working with clients, my priority is to make sure that we're doing things very efficiently, and then we're also providing a positive ROI. Most clients, some of those tickets are pretty high. So most clients range anywhere on the very, very low end is going to be 5x. Typically, it's going to be 10 to 12x for a client, depending on the arrangement, depending on the monthly pay. Monthly retainer is always the same, but there might be a rev share deal or a per meeting. I don't particularly like doing per meeting, but I can. Rev share is more typical, and for that person, I'm much more particular because they need to be able to close business. So I hope this is helpful from the perspective of a good case study for ecom, an ecom marketing brand that does really great work. What they can expect, if you're like, oh yeah, like this is kind of similar to business. Every business is a little bit different, but you can kind of get a sense of the numbers, how it works, things that work, things that don't work. Hope it's helpful. Have a good one.